The Change by Duane Penmanship. Chapter 1. Milk and Donuts. The smell of warm sugar and cold glass bottles greeted me before I even opened the front door. It was the late 70s, back when mornings still felt safe enough for an 8-year-old to wander out in pajamas without a second thought. I twisted the brass knob and pulled the door open to the porch, and there it was. 2 tall bottles of milk sweating in the crisp air, and a white cardboard box with a faint grease stain in the corner. The donuts. The box was always warm to the touch, as if the bakery slipped them into the milkman's hands only minutes before he reached our house. I'd pick it up first, because donuts came before milk in the laws of childhood, and carry it in carefully so the powdered sugar wouldn't slide off. Then I'd grab the milk, heavy and smooth, the glass cold enough to sting my fingers. Inside, the kitchen was still quiet. Mom hummed softly from the hallway, the sound of her slippers brushing across linoleum. "Put the milk in the fridge, Terry," she called, her voice warm but firm. I slid the bottles into the bottom shelf, right next to yesterday's leftovers, and set the donuts on the counter like a prize worth showing off. We lived in the inner city, but if you judged us by that morning routine, the milk delivery, the donuts, the quiet porch, you might have thought we were somewhere in the countryside. The truth was, our block was lined with row houses and streetlights that buzzed all night. Station wagons sat parked bumper to bumper, their wood panel siding catching the morning sun. You could hear buses rumbling down the main road if the wind carried just right. Out on the porch, I spotted Mr. Lewis, our milkman, pulling his truck into the next driveway. He was a tall man with a belly that hinted at years of enjoying his own deliveries, and he had the kind of voice that could talk you into believing the world wasn't changing at all. "Mornin', young fella," he called when he saw me. "Mornin', Mr. Lewis," I yelled back. He grinned. "Enjoy them donuts?" One day you'll remember these better than anything else. At 8 years old, I didn't understand what he meant. But looking back, he was right. School mornings had their rhythm. I'd eat my donut, usually chocolate glaze, while watching my brother Reggie try to spin a basketball on his finger in the hallway mirror. He was in middle school and had just discovered his basketball idol. The way he saw it, if he could dribble between his legs without losing the ball, he was only a few years away from playing at the local stadium. I'd lace up my sneakers, sling my backpack over my shoulder, and head toward the bus stop. On the way, I'd pass Mrs. Carter watering her plants, Mr. Daniels sweeping the sidewalk in front of his barber shop, and the corner store owner, Manny, pulling up the metal gate to start the day. Back then, everyone knew everyone. If you didn't wave, they'd call your mama to find out why. I didn't know it then, but these mornings were a chapter closing before a whole new book began. The world outside was shifting, music, fashion, even the way people talked. But on that porch, with milk in one hand and donuts in the other, it felt like life would stay simple forever. Chapter 2. Good Old Holidays. The days leading up to Thanksgiving were always a mix of excitement and impatience. School felt like it dragged its feet, but as soon as the last bell rang on Wednesday, the day before the break, the whole neighborhood seemed to exhale. 2 whole days off, plus the weekend, meant 4 days to do nothing but play, eat, and rest. At home, the kitchen became a battleground. My brother Reggie and I would fight over the big department store toy catalog Mom picked up at the corner store. The pages were glossy and colorful, filled with pictures of bikes, model cars, and games that promised the kind of adventures we only dreamed about. Reggie always tried to grab the catalog first, flipping past the pages like he already owned everything inside. I'd wrestle it back, pointing out the newest bike with the banana seat or the walkie-talkies that looked just like the ones on our favorite TV show. Mom didn't scold us much. She was used to it. Instead, she'd smile and remind us to be grateful for what we had, even if it didn't include the newest toys. "Remember," she'd say, "you can always make your own fun." On Thanksgiving morning, the smells of turkey and pumpkin pie filled our small apartment. Auntie May would come over with her famous sweet potatoes, and for a few hours the troubles of the world felt miles away. We'd watch football games on the one-channel movie box, cheering on the teams as if our happiness depended on it. Christmas break was the real holiday. 2 full weeks away from school, a luxury we all treasured. Reggie and I spent hours at the mall, wandering from store to store, staring at toys we knew we wouldn't get. The arcades beckoned with flashing lights and the clatter of pinball machines, while the movie theater promised escape into other worlds. Music was everywhere, blaring from storefront speakers, and the beat of breakdancers echoed down the halls. Monica, my best friend from next door, would sketch the dancers as they moved, her eyes sparkling with ideas about painting murals or maybe even designing clothes someday. Back then, holidays were about family and friends, simple joys, and the magic of possibility. But beneath all the laughter and tradition, the city was changing. New music, new styles, and new challenges were coming fast, sometimes before we even knew they were there. Chapter 3. The Music Shift. The first time I heard pop music, it was like the world suddenly got brighter. The sound poured out of a battered boombox on the corner, mixing with the scratch of graffiti artists' spray cans and the rhythmic thumping of breakdancers on cardboard sheets. Music wasn't just something you listened to anymore, it was something you lived. Our neighborhood streets became stages. Kids who barely knew each other came together to dance, rap, and create. Monica started sketching the breakdancers as they spun and popped, her fingers flying across the pages like she was capturing lightning. She talked about painting murals on the blank walls by the park, bringing color and life to places no one noticed before. Reggie, ever the athlete, found a new rhythm in hip-hop beats, weaving his basketball moves with the dance steps he picked up from watching the street crews. Sometimes an older cousin would bring us mixtapes from New York, raw, powerful rhymes and rhythms that felt both foreign and familiar. It was the sound of change. On hot summer nights, the neighborhood echoed with music from every open window. Disco, pop, and smooth R&B came on the radio, and suddenly everyone wanted to dress sharp and move smooth. The air smelled of grease from the corner diner and of anticipation, like something big was just around the corner. But not all change was good. Alongside the music and color, darker shadows were creeping in. The carefree days were starting to fade, replaced by whispers of new dangers. Still, for a while, the beat went on, and the music held us together. Chapter 4. Showtime Dreams. If music was the heartbeat of our neighborhood, basketball was its soul. Every afternoon, the park filled with kids chasing dreams on cracked asphalt courts. The sound of sneakers squeaking, balls bouncing, and cheers echoed like a soundtrack to our lives. Reggie was obsessed. Goldie Graham was his hero. The way Goldie ran the court with that effortless smile, commanding the game like a conductor leading an orchestra. On weekends, we'd crowd around the tiny TV at Manny's corner store, eyes glued to the games, soaking in every pass, every dunk. Barry Kane's sharp shooting was like poetry, and the rivalry felt bigger than basketball. It was about pride, identity, and hope. Reggie practiced like his life depended on it. He'd stay out late, dribbling under streetlights, imagining the roar of the crowd at the stadium. Sometimes I tagged along, watching his energy and passion with awe. But Mr. Lewis, the milkman, saw the other side. "Sports can take you far, kid," he told Reggie one day, handing him a fresh bottle of milk. "But the streets don't care how many points you score." Those words hung in the air, a quiet warning beneath the cheers and dreams. For now, the neighborhood was alive with possibility, but the shadows were growing longer, waiting to creep onto the court. Chapter 5. New Tech, New Times. The kitchen was changing faster than I could keep up. The microwave sat on the counter like a shiny spaceship, its buttons blinking with mystery. Mom was proud of it, showing off how it could heat leftovers in seconds, something that felt like magic compared to the old stove. One evening, our neighbor Mr. Jacobs invited us over to watch a movie on his new movie box. It was just one channel, but it felt like a window into another world. The flickering screen showed a gangster move, a gritty story that seemed both thrilling and scary, unlike anything I'd seen before. At school and on the streets, the old ways mixed with the new. Station wagons still ruled the roads, but talk of new cars with four-wheel drive, like the SUVs, started filtering in. No cable TV yet, but the idea of dozens of channels was like a dream. Even music had new players. The crackle of vinyl was slowly giving way to cassette tapes that kids swapped like treasures. Monica traded sketches for mixtapes, while Reggie tucked his basketball cards safely inside a plastic binder. The neighborhood was caught between two worlds, comfortably familiar yet tinged with the unknown. Change was coming, like the microwave's beep, sudden, unavoidable, and powerful. Chapter 6, 1984, Style and Status. It felt like overnight the whole neighborhood got a makeover. The kids who used to wear hand-me-downs showed up at school rocking name-brand tracksuits, gold chains, and sneakers so clean they looked like they'd never touched the pavement. Even middle schoolers strutted down the halls with pockets full of cash, flashing it like a badge of honor. Swap meets and mini-malls sprang up on every corner, packed with shiny new clothes and the latest cassette tapes. Reggie came home one day with a pair of popular sneakers, the kind everyone was talking about, but no one knew how he'd gotten them. I didn't ask. Monica sketched the new styles, fascinated by the way clothes could change how you felt and how others saw you. The neighborhood was alive with the hum of change, but there was a sharp edge underneath it all. Rumors spread quickly: fast money, fast cars, and fast trouble. Darnell D-Man Carter rolled through the block like a king, his flashy lifestyle drawing kids into a world that glittered but hid danger. Reggie started hanging out with D-Man, and I could feel the distance growing between us. School wasn't the same anymore. The easy days were fading, replaced by whispers about drugs, arrests, and police raids. The playground fights got fiercer, the looks colder. Something was different. The change was no longer coming. It was already here. Chapter 7. The Crack Wave. The streets didn't just change. They cracked open. The familiar faces I'd known since childhood started looking different. Eyes darting, hands twitching, voices hushed. Where laughter once bounced between buildings, now there was a tense silence, broken only by sirens and shouted warnings. Darnell D-Man Carter was everywhere. His flashy clothes and fast money couldn't hide the storm he carried with him. Reggie began disappearing for hours, sometimes days. When he came back, his eyes were harder, his smile forced. He stopped practicing basketball and started talking about deals and business. Monica's older sister was one of the first in our circle to fall. She vanished for a week, then returned a shadow of herself, caught in the grip of crack cocaine. The bright light in her eyes dimmed, replaced by fear and desperation. Even Mr. Lewis, the milkman, looked worn. His daily rounds grew shorter as families moved away or fell apart. "It's like the city's bleeding," he told me once, "and no one knows how to stop it." The police showed up more often, but some of them seemed just as lost, or worse, corrupted. Stories of good cops turning crooked swept through the neighborhood like wildfire. It didn't matter who you were or where you came from. Crack cocaine didn't discriminate. It took everyone it wanted. The innocence of our childhood was slipping through our fingers like smoke. Chapter 8. Broken Bonds. The people I'd grown up with were changing, some faster than I could understand. Reggie wasn't the brother I remembered. His laughter was rare now, replaced by tense silences and hurried conversations with D-Man and others I barely recognized. Monica's murals turned darker, her bright colors replaced by shadows and cracked glass. She stopped coming around as much, and when she did, her eyes held a weight no kid should carry. At school, friends started disappearing, some moving away, others caught up in the crack wave sweeping the city. Parties weren't about fun anymore. They were about escape. The kids who once dreamed of better lives now talked in hushed tones about survival. One afternoon, I found Reggie sitting alone on the stoop, his hands shaking. He confessed he'd been caught by the police, but let go because they didn't want to deal with the fallout. He asked me not to tell Mom. Trust broke down like glass between us, and I felt powerless. The streets that once held my childhood now felt like a trap closing in on all of us. Chapter 9. Gangster Rap Reality. The music changed the way we saw ourselves and the world. Gangster rap's raw, unfiltered lyrics blasted from car stereos, telling stories nobody else dared to speak. The beats were hard, the words tougher, and the attitude even sharper. Kids who used to listen to pop and funk switched to gangster rap, wearing baggy clothes, gold chains, and baseball caps pulled low. Reggie was deep into it, his swagger growing, but his eyes darkening. The boy who once dreamed of playing professional basketball now seemed caught in a different game, one with no rules. Monica's sister came home after a long absence, broken but alive. The cracks in her soul showed in every glance. She kept to herself, lost in the music and memories. The streets felt colder, harder. School hallways echoed with threats and challenges instead of laughter. The neighborhood wasn't just changing anymore. It was transforming into something unrecognizable. Chapter 10. The Last Delivery. The morning air had that crisp bite of late autumn, the kind that makes your breath visible and your memories sharper. Mr. Lewis's truck rattled down the block for the last time, its tires crunching over fallen leaves. The sound was slower now, almost ceremonial, as if even the engine understood it was the end of an era. I watched from the porch, wrapped in a coat that felt heavier than it should. The milkman's silhouette was familiar, cap tilted slightly, shoulders square, eyes scanning the houses like he always did. For years, this sight was my alarm clock, my first sign of the day. Reggie leaned against the lamppost at the corner, his hands buried deep in his jacket pockets. He wasn't the laughing kid who used to race me to the corner store anymore. Life had sanded the edges off him, leaving someone quieter, harder, and maybe a little lost. D-Man stood beside him, chewing on a toothpick, glancing up and down the street like he was expecting something, or someone, to appear. Monica came down the sidewalk slowly, a small duffel bag slung over her shoulder. She looked different, too, not just older, but more certain of herself. Her murals still lit up the cracked brick walls of the neighborhood, splashes of blue, gold, and crimson in a sea of worn-out gray. She paused to run her fingers over one of her paintings, a young girl holding a kite against the wind, before turning to us with a faint smile. Mr. Lewis stepped onto my porch, his boots thudding softly against the wooden planks. He set down the last glass bottle of milk with deliberate care, like he was placing something fragile into my hands. "Last stop," he said, his voice warm but touched with something heavier. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Doesn't feel right," I admitted. "Change never does at first," he replied, meeting my eyes for a moment before glancing toward the street. Across the block, the old corner store had its windows boarded up, the for sale sign hanging crooked. Kids didn't play stickball in the street anymore. The laughter that once bounced between these houses had been replaced by the hum of passing cars and the occasional siren in the distance. Reggie crossed over to us, pulling his hood tighter around his face. "This place ain't the same," he muttered. "It's not supposed to be," Monica said quietly, shifting her bag. "We grow. Places change. That's how it works." I looked at the three of them, Reggie, Monica, D-Man, and realized we were all at different crossroads. Monica was leaving for a future painted in color and light. Reggie was staying, though I wasn't sure if it was by choice or by chains. D-Man, well, he was a question mark, like always. Mr. Lewis picked up his crate and gave a small wave. "Take care of each other," he said simply. Then he walked back to his truck, climbed in, and drove away. The sound of the engine faded until all that was left was the wind rustling through the last of the leaves. I stood there with the bottle of milk in my hand, condensation cold against my skin. It struck me that this was more than just the end of his route. It was the closing of a chapter we'd all been a part of. We didn't say much after that. Reggie and D-Man headed down the block. Monica hugged me once, hard, then turned and walked toward the bus stop. And me? I stayed on the porch for a long while, watching the street, feeling the weight of what had been and the uncertainty of what was coming. Change had arrived quietly without asking permission, and as much as I wanted to hold on to the way things were, I knew the only way forward was to carry those memories with me, like a lantern in the dark. The End, The Change, by Duane Penmanship.